So here we are in London. I have the pleasure, the distinct pleasure of speaking to YNGWIE MALMSTEEN. YNGWIE, welcome to London.
Thank you, thank you.
Great news, exciting news. Not only have you got a new album coming out, which we'll talk about, but you're bringing the album out on Mascot Records. Mm-hmm. The album is called Blue Lightning.
Yes.
So, and as I understand it, it's a kind of a departure. It's a bluesy record, but a lightning fast bluesy record. So tell me about how the idea of doing a blues album came about.
Well, it's a funny thing, because I've been told by people since as long as I can remember, they hear me go, like, you know, just noodling around, whatever, on stage or in, you know, anywhere. They'll go, hey, you should do a blues album, you should do a blues album. And I always say, nah, I don't think so, I don't think so. But and then about a year ago, Ed from Mascot came to me and I said, hey, blues album. I said, maybe bluesy, I will. So that's what we did, and we agreed to like pick some you know, classic songs, and we originally said we was gonna pick them together, and I just picked them and they liked them too, so that's how we did it. And I basically was touring on World on Fire album, and going in the studio a little bit and then going auto tour and back and forth, so I wasn't like, you know, one shot in the studio, you know, and I quite enjoyed it actually. I had a lot of fun doing this.
And the great thing about the album is it's a mixture of instrumental tracks, covers, some originals, and also you're singing on a lot more tracks than you have on the last few albums.
Yeah.
Your voice is sounding really good. It's really come into its own.
Thank you.
So, is that something you felt from listening back to the album, that you think, yeah, my voice has come a long way?
I'm quite pleased with it. Yeah, it's a funny thing, because when I'm in my studio, like I told you earlier on, I have this new console being brought in and stuff. Every time I have new stuff to put in the studio, it's like an inspiration to go in and do something. And I had this brand new vocal microphone that they gave me from a company called YNGWIE, and it's got both tube and MOSFET inside the microphone. It's got tubes, and it's like a really amazing vocal mic, you know. So it was, a lot of times it was just inspiring to hear the great sound coming out of the microphone. So it was a lot of fun, was what it was. Yeah.
And I know that often usually you play bass on the albums. How about the drums and the keyboards on the album?
I do some of the drums. Some of the drums are from another guy, but I do all the other instruments: the bass, keyboards, the guitars, vocals, everything. All the butts, I do everything.
So I remember reading that I mean, you're obviously a tremendous musician, but people know you for the guitar, but you play many more instruments. I heard the cello. Yes. You mentioned the sitar. Yes. Any other sort of hidden talents? Banjo, maybe?
No, it's mostly the ensemble over here on the record.
Because you think you played cello on the acoustic album you had out not that long ago. Mm-hmm. But that was kind of a one-off, was it, for the cello?
I did a couple albums, you know. I just like the sound of it.
And one thing I know that you're inspired by musicians, composers, the early Baroque composers like Paganini and Vivaldi, violinists. Did you ever play the violin, or have you ever been kind of inspired to pick up the violin?
I did try to play violin sometimes, and I had one, but it's a very different animal, you know. It's very small, and the cello was easier to pick up. My brother was an amazing violinist, God bless him. But no, I'd rather just take the violin inflections and put them to the guitar.
Cool. And if we look at the track listing, that there are a total of 12 songs, about 4 originals, and then 8 covers. There's some really interesting ones we'll talk about briefly. So let's look at Demon's Eye first of all, Deep Purple song. Am I right that you recorded that on the Inspiration a long while ago? Mm-hmm. So you revisited it for this album.
Yes.
What was the reason for doing that?
Quite a few reasons, actually. One of the reasons is, of course, I love the song. I think it's really cool. It was the first song I ever heard, you know, with them. Actually, the first song was a Fireball, but I mean the song that I really started playing. I was 8 years old then. Not 18, 8. And I really enjoyed singing it. I had a blast singing it, and I did the same key as the original key instead of being on the previous version. I changed the keys around. So I'm much more happy with this version.
And towards the end of the album, you've got "Smoke on the Water." Is that something you've been itching to do your own cover of?
It's something I've been doing on stage since forever. Just why not? It's just throw it on because it's a great, fun thing to do, you know.
And I think one of the tracks that for me stood out, not only because it's a great way to finish the album, but it's like, that's a Clapton song, Forever Man. From I mean, it's almost from Clapton's Armani years, right, rather than the early Blues Breakers years. So tell me about the choice of that song.
Well, I used to hear it on the radio back in the 80s, and I see it on MTV all the time. I used to think, wow, that's a great song. So one of the natural ones for me to try out was that, because, you know, when we started talking about this, doing this project, you know, I figured out songs I really dug, you know, like the ZZ Top and, you know, Rolling Stones and different ones, Beatles, you know, not just the standard ones. And that was one I always dug, so I really worked that one. That was great working out one. Yeah.
And it's nice because you listen to it. If you don't look at the track list, you go, that's really familiar. Now, is that an original? And because your take is that the melody's there, but the obviously arrangement is a more is more type of arrangement.
Yeah, yeah. No, it seemed to take it into my house, so to speak.
For me, one of the standout tracks is an original composition, 1911, Struts. Yeah. It is kind of got that ZZ Top vibe, but again, you brought it home.
Right. That was what I did on purpose. I wanted a little more higher tempo, up tempo one. So I kind of like we need like an up tempo one. So I just threw that one together. It's a lot of fun too.
And what's ironic, and I guess it might be deliberate, is the song after that, Blue Jean Blues, is a ZZ Top song.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, people wouldn't have necessarily imagined, wow, Yngwie's doing ZZ Top, but folks, he is.
Oh yeah. I love them. I always do.
So in terms of guitar players, I mean, I know you have your own absolutely unique and amazing style and sound yourself. Are there other players, maybe Billy Gibbons, that you listen to that are completely different but inspire you in terms of their tone, their choice of notes?
Well, very early on in my career, my musical life, so to speak, I actually leaned away from the guitar players and got very much into violin, classical violin, and that's, but I'd say 99.9999% of my influences. Especially Nicola Paganini, Capricious. But I hear guitar players, I've heard guitar players since then, of course, that I admire greatly, like Alan Holdsworth, many other things. I like guitar players you probably would think, like Angus Young and Brian May. I think they're all great. I think there's a lot of great guitar players out there. But as far as the influence, no.
And I was interested by, because you're known as your own man, with your own direction, your own focus, but then equally, you went on the G3 tour originally, and then the Generation Axe tour with Zakk Wylde, with Steve Vai, and I think Steve even guested on Black Star on stage.
Yes, he's awesome. He's great. Me and Steve are like, he's like my brother, 35 years more than that now, shit. I love him. He's a great guy and he's a great player, and I was more than happy to be on this one.
Yes. Yeah. And again, on that theme of you being very single-minded, you do seem to have a lot of fun with the collaborations you did. There's an album I found called Butchering the Beatles, where you play a Magical Mystery Tour or something.
Yeah.
And then an ABBA tribute where you did Gimme, Gimme, Gimme. I mean, it shows another side of you.
Yeah. I've done a few of those. I did the thing of Van Halen one, and Ozzy one, Aerosmith one.
The Aerosmith one, didn't they have Ronnie James Dio singing it?
Ronnie Dio, yeah.
Were you in the studio for that?
No, we were separate spaces, but we were there in spirit, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's a cover of Dream On for those of you that want to go and seek it out online. And then, talking about collaborations, one that I really love is Derek Sherinian and the work he's done. And I know that you guested on a few of his albums, and Alan Holdsworth did as well, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at one of his albums. There's a song that you play on, but it's also got Al Di Meola is playing nylon guitar on the same track. And I wonder what you think of Al, because he himself, when I've interviewed him, he talks about that he's a rhythmic guy. He's kind of a drummer that plays guitar, and I know that you have had a real love for drums as well.
Yeah. Al is a good friend of mine. I admire him greatly too. He actually lives not far from me. One of his places. And I didn't hear that particular one, but of course I've heard Al Di Meola. Love his stuff.
And just a couple of other things through history that I think that people want to or be interested about. You played, as far as I remember or read, a gig with the Ian Gillan Band, or Gillan as it was, in about 1990 with Ted McKenna, who sadly just passed away.
Oh, I know.
And so what was it like, for one night that stood on the stage next to Gillan?
It's a lot of fun. Actually, we played Speed King, we played Demon's Eye, I think we played Demon's Eye. We played Black Knight, Lucille, and one more. But I actually had an even more interesting, I did a tour with Deep Purple in 2009. And it was, with Don Airey and Steve Morse, And it was last show in Tokyo. They said, hey, come up and play with us. Okay. And that night, particular night, actually John Lord happened to be in town too.
Wow.
So John Lord came up, and I came up, and we did Smoke on the Water. And it was crazy cool, That was really good. That was a lot of fun.
So if you go back to about 1977, 1978, when you recorded the Powerhouse, the demo tape.
Yeah.
Would you ever imagine that all those 40 years on, we'd be having this conversation, talking about...
to be honest with you, I didn't know what to expect about anything, but that was a few years before I actually moved out. So I did everything I could in Sweden, and it wasn't going very well. So I made a lot of tapes, and I would send them out all the time, and I sent it to Guitar Player magazine, and they said, you got to come to the States. And that was like 82. So,
did you know that's 200 years after Paganini was born?
1782.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Yeah. He died in 1840.
So it's a kind of a weird and wonderful synchronicity.
Yeah.
And Vivaldi, I think when you did the tape in '78, that's 300 years after he was born.
Wow. Well, you know more than I do about this. I know this, that Enzo Ferrari was born March 6, 1898. And my son was born March 6, 1998. And
your son is named after Vivaldi, if I'm not mistaken. So did you think for a while, should I call him Niccolo after Paganini?
I think I did think of both, but I thought Antonio was a better name.
We love the history. So you're playing this lovely guitar. This is your signature model.
Yes, and by the way, the Fender. This is a YNGWIE MALMSTEEN model, and I'm very proud to say I was the first one to have one before Clapton, before Beck. I was the first one to have a Fender model.
Because they didn't do signature models. I mean, Gibson
didn't even give guitars for free. But they come out this year now, I think in early June or so, they come out with an YNGWIE MALMSTEEN 30th anniversary guitar. And that's going to be amazing, because it's got a little different, instead of this skunk stripe here, it's got what's called a maple cap, which is like the 1968 model. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
And the other thing, if I remember rightly, it's got the larger headstock.
Yes, exactly this, yeah.
Does that help with sustain?
It's actually makes the guitar louder. Yeah, and I think it looks better too.
It suits you, sir. That's as much as I can say on that.
Yeah.
So here's one that one of my colleagues mentioned. When Alcatraz came together, the drummer from Iron Maiden at the time, Clive Burr, he was part of the original lineup.
He stayed at my house.
Yeah?
Yeah, he was a sweetheart. And what happened was that I was in a band called Steeler, and the band Steeler was just a local LA metal band. It was very extraordinary, not extraordinary rather. And so I would play around town, and one night Phil Mogg from UFO comes over and says, "I want you to come and join UFO." And I said, "Wow, this is pretty cool." So he says, "Come over to my house." So the next day, I get a phone call from whoever was putting together the Graham Bonnet thing, and they want me to come over to try out with them. So the same day, I had to choose from Graham Bonnet to Phil Mogg. So I go to Graham Bonnet's thing, which wasn't Alcatraz yet. They didn't have the thing together, and they told me later on that they accepted me as a guitar player before I played a note, because the way I just walked in up on stage and said, "This is the guy," you know. And so whatever. So I play a song whatever with them, and they go, "Hey man, you have the gig, man. You got the gig." I said, "Hey, thanks, but you know, I'll let you know." I was acting like a big shot. So I go to Phil's house, and he was nice, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I called him up on the phone and says, "All right, I'm in. 2 conditions. I write the songs, I'm getting a new drummer." Because the drummer they had was some guy, he was awful. This wasn't good. So we got all these drummers coming in. Ainsley Dunbar, Bill Lorden from Robin Trower, Clive Burr from Iron Maiden. We had a bunch of other people I don't remember. And then also Johnny from Alice Cooper band, which I thought was the best drummer. But they thought we should have Clive Burr. And I said, "But Clive Burr is a nice guy, but he ain't as good a drummer as Johnny is." "Well, we gotta have Clive Burr, he's famous." I said, "Yeah, why don't you have Clive Burr and I'm out of here." So it's like, you know, it started from that point on. I was calling the shots, but it was funny because I think that record turned out good, but that was about it, you know. It wasn't meant to be.
And Jan was the guy that eventually got the drum seat.
Jan, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's kind of ironic because he was playing with Iron Butterfly and he replaced someone who was in Iron Maiden. So.
Oh yeah. It was Alice Cooper, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a great knowledge of music and music history, and you like the best. So Ferraris, Fenders, Marshalls. So. What does that say about you?
I'm a bit of a purist, to be honest with you. It's funny, when I first came to the States and we hit the scene, so to speak, there was a lot of people, like every guitar company, every amp company would come up to me and say, "Hey, we'll give you whatever you want." I said, "No, I'd rather stay with Fender and Marshall, because that's, to me, I'd rather pay for that." Eventually, of course, that became my signature molds. My amps are also Malmsteen molds, you know, the Marshalls. YGM 100s, and I have even the pedal, the Fender pedal, and so yeah, I think it pays off to be kind of focused, you know, not follow trends.
Well, so, I mean, certainly you can tell the tone when you play live and on the record. It's biting, it's overdriven, but it's overdriven without being sort of harmed by this. It's clean, but it's not too fuzzy. It's a great definition to the sound.
Yes, thank you.
But I guess that's for the power of the single Duncan pickups, right?
Yeah, these pickups, and then of course the Marshalls and the cabinets are 300-watt cabinets, which are they give very clear reproduction of the sound. You know, whereas a 100-watt cabinet, you get what a lot of people like, cone distortion. I don't like that. You know, so there's a lot of few, and also how you mic it, put a compressor on, you know. Few tricks.
And I mean, talking of tricks, and I know it's not a trick. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, Yngwie's on stage. You know, he's got his band to the side because he's got the wall of Marshalls you can see from the moon." But
yes.
None of them are turned on, right?
Yes. No, of course they're turned on.
Exactly. So I want to dispel the myth that they're all fake. That they're all real.
They're all real. Absolutely. Absolutely. You come behind and look if you want.
I saw there's like a gear guide you did for one of your tours, and it's fascinating. Look at the back of the amp, and you've got like a 100 to a 50-watt switch, so you can use half the valves and stuff like that.
You can if you want. Yeah. I tend to use the 100-watt nowadays because it's got more of a penetrating sound. You know, 50 is good for more like warmer tones. You know, you can do that. But for live use, I think the 100 is definitely more. What?
So speaking of touring, before we started this, you mentioned the pretty busy schedule you've got. You've got I think about 30 odd US dates coming up in April.
Yeah.
So I assume you'll be playing stuff off the Blue Lightning album, the new album. Yeah. Any further plans? Obviously in Europe, we'd love to see you back. You toured in the other year.
I love to come here. Again, I say this in every interview. My management and I don't book the tours. The tours are being booked by a separate agent, you know. And so, but hopefully it's going to be, you know, I think it's just a matter of timing and all that stuff, you know. It's a lot of aspects. But you know, I'm hoping for the best.
And yeah, and the other thing, just looking at sort of your tour coverage, is you don't play Sweden that often, being your home country, original home country. What do you think about Sweden now that you've been based over in the US for such a long time?
It's very cold. Yeah. You know, I lived in the States for 37 years, and you know, I feel very at home there. You know. I obviously know my background and I'm very proud to be a Viking and all that stuff. But I seem to be, my personality seems to fit better in the States.
I noticed from your set list, you aren't playing I Am a Viking. You haven't played that for a long while. Maybe time to introduce it.
Yeah. It's hard to put a set list together. I have like 45,000 albums.
But hey, that's part of the fun, and I guess you get to decide. It's your gig, it's your name.
Here's the funny thing with my set list, because the set list is changing every night. So I say to the guys that come in my dressing room 10 minutes before the show, and I say, here's the set list. Print it out there. It's not the same set list as last night, but yeah, but okay. So we go on stage, and I have a set list, but I still don't play that set list. I change it, middle of the night, middle of the show. Because I think that the only way I can do this and be interested in it and keep it fresh is to do that and play it differently and just improvise stuff. That's fun.
So it'd be great to see you over here. So in terms of what is there left for you to do? You know, looking back, as we said earlier, 40 years since you did the demo tape, or even more than that now. And you did the concerto with the orchestra, E flat minor. Is there another potential concerto in the vein?
I would love to do one, yeah, I'd love to do one. It's a very time-consuming thing. It takes time. It takes time to book to orchestras. A lot of stuff like that's very involved. But yeah, sure, I would love to do that.
And then, I guess almost the final question is, if you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, just as you were plane ticket in hand, just about to head off on that great Mike Varney sponsored adventure, what advice would you give yourself just as you were boarding that plane?
Back to the Future. Well, you know, it would probably be a lot of advice, a lot of things that would have done differently. But in a weird way, though, I think that part of life is to make mistakes. You make mistakes and you learn from them. If you don't learn from your mistakes, then that's a big problem. Yeah. You know. So yeah, it's a good hypothetical thing, but I think you can't do that. So.
Yngwie, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. So just to remind everyone, the new album, or the forthcoming album, Blue Lightning, is out on Mascot Records, released on the 29th of March 2019. As the title says, it's blues played at lightning speed, but blues is kind of the start point. It's a whole mixture of stuff, from Texas Strut type blues to a reimagining of a Clapton song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, great vocal on that. No, it's a great load of stuff to delve into. So
thank you.
We're really enjoying it. Thanks again, Yngwie. Pleasure.
Thank you much.
Cheers.